me just make sure it is actually there, and we will be good to go.
Oh, we're streaming live on YouTube.
Yes, it makes my life
Fascinating.
easier. Sure it is actually there. Oh, hold on.
Do you feel more important now, Brenda?
Totally.
That you're
And you know,
streaming live on YouTube? It's
well, JV, I always tell you I'm in the witness protection program. So, you know, I'm always like, oh, where am I casting to? I'm just kidding, everybody. On YouTube.
All righty, so I will go ahead and get us started. Shanika, do you have the ability to start the record from your end? Awesome. All righty. So welcome everybody to the November BDPA Atlanta session, monthly session. BDPA Atlanta is an organization that believes in, I was still sitting on YouTube. BDPA Atlanta is an organization that believes in bringing relevant content to our members and our friends. So definitely, we expect that you're going to get a lot out of what you hear today. Just a little background on BDPA Atlanta. BDPA Atlanta is a part of the larger BDPA organization, which is charged with building a pipeline of diverse professionals and aspiring students in the STEM field. One of our biggest goals is help to bridge the gap in underserved communities. So as you can see here on screen, we have a 1,200 member plus base. We have over 30 chapters throughout the US, majority of those concentrated on the East Coast and the Southeast. We're continuously trying to build a presence on the West Coast, but it takes time and it takes opportunity to make that happen. Currently, throughout the BDPA landscape, we have over 70 corporate sponsors, and our corporate sponsors help us do a lot. And I'll kind of get to what local corporate sponsors can assist us with here fairly soon. When you think about the pillars of BDPA and BDPA Atlanta, what we focus on, our youth STEM programs is a large part of our focus. So we teach students K through 12 STEM. So depending on what level they're at, a main focus is our high school programs, whereas we teach full stack web development and mobile app development. We go through an 8-month period where every Saturday we're teaching students different components within the discipline. It's really exciting because the culmination of it is they get to compete for scholarship dollars against other BDPA chapters throughout the nation. And one of the other great things is that when they go to college, they would already have exposure to some of the technologies that they would engage with during what I call weed out classes. So it's really cool. It's a really exciting program, and I'm excited to see what some of the past students have done as they've gone throughout their career. We also establish college programs. So with that, we provide a lot of mentoring, and similar to what we're doing here today, we just provide additional exposure to college students, especially those that are still trying to determine what career path they want to go on or what discipline within IT they want to focus on. And what we're doing here tonight, although we always open it up to our students, but this is a target for our adult members. So our adult programs is just another opportunity to provide our membership exposure to either emerging trends or just topics within the technology discipline that may benefit them within their career. So overall, those are the pillars that we focus on here in BDPA Atlanta. We love to engage others. We love to invite folks in to participate in our programs. And that's how we see ourselves thriving. I would say our high school program is probably our niche program, but the others are not far behind. How can you get involved from a sponsorship standpoint with BDPA Atlanta? there are many opportunities to get involved. You can be a college chapter sponsor. What that means is that you just help provide resources to support our college chapters. You do things like resume reviews, you do mock interviews, and you be like on point to assist with that particular chapter for any questions or mentoring they may need. You can sponsor existing STEM programs that we have. So I mentioned, our focus on the K through 12 STEM activities. So you can, definitely become a sponsor of any of those programs. Sponsor new experiential programs for learning. One of the big things that we kind of started right at the beginning of COVID season, I would call it, is the not Microsoft, but the AWS Racer program. So we're exposing a lot of our students to autonomous vehicles and how they work. So throughout the year, we were able to, begin to expose them again virtually. It's just challenging because you don't have the physical AWS Racer in your hand. They do have an online component that you can use with AWS Racer program, but again, the excitement is to teach them, the machine learning and AI behind the autonomous vehicle, but also for them to actually see it happening in person and just get to hold it and feel it and smell it. That's really cool. So COVID has kind of taken that away from us. But again, those are the kind of opportunities that we're looking for sponsorship on. Of course, the other piece is every year we give out scholarships to our seniors. So any high school senior that's going on to pursue a technology major in college, we try to provide them with some financial support. It's definitely not on the level of, hey, I don't have to pay for college, but it's unexpected usually, and it's something that's just a great benefit and a thank you from us to them for their commitment to the program. And similar to what Matrix Resources is doing today, you can always sponsor a technology series. We're always looking for speakers. We're always looking for those that are willing to share their expertise with a broader audience, which can give exposure to their organization. But more importantly, it can help grow the skill set of those that are members and friends of BDPA Atlanta. If you'd like to connect with BDPA Atlanta, there are many ways you can do that. So we have 2 meetup groups, and either Shanique or myself will post in the chat window just different links that you can access in order to become members of these particular social pages. But we have 2 meetup groups. We have Atlanta Minorities in Technology and BDPA Atlanta. You definitely can connect with that. On LinkedIn, we have both a page and a group. Both are called BDPA Atlanta. I encourage you definitely for the BDPA Atlanta page, because I just created it like 2 months ago, to please go out there and like that page so we can increase our membership. Our group has over 1,000 people, but it's hard with groups because you can't add groups on LinkedIn. So it just makes it challenging to get relevant information to the group. But on the page, it's very simple. On Twitter, you can get at us at Atlanta BDPA. So definitely follow us on Twitter as well as on Instagram. We're BDPA Atlanta. Similar to what we're doing right now, we're streaming live on YouTube. So you can go back and view any of the old footage that we have on YouTube. It's there for you. And definitely you can connect with us via our BDPA website, atlantabdpa.org. So any of those ways you can connect with us, as well as connect with relevant content that will be meaningful to you. I always encourage those that, have a gift or a particular skill set. If it's something that you'd like to share with the organization, definitely reach out to us and share what your skill set is and what you like to present on, and we can figure out a way to incorporate that into our program. So that brings us to today's topic, business agility, presented by Matrix Resources. And again, I would just like to thank the Matrix organization for their commitment to BDPA and continually providing value to our organization. Without you, who knows what topics we will have today, but I would say you brought already two powerhouse topics, and I'm sure session 3 will be no different. Session 1, how agility is changing the role of the project manager. Joshua Jack of Matrix Resources did an amazing job at informing us how agility is changing the role, the responsibilities, and even the persona of the project manager, and how you can be ready for this coming change. So it was definitely an amazing session. Session 2, Breon Green brought to us DevOps, the value of automation and continuous delivery. And in that, we learned how companies who have been successful implementing DevOps use automation to drive productivity and boost DevOps ROI. And today, I'm excited because we are talking about business agility. And I was jokingly discussing with me being on the IT side, just my view of agility versus, maybe some of my counterparts on the business side and the pace by which we change. So I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with Matrix Resources. So with that, I am not going to steal the thunder of the introduction. I will turn it over to Matrix, and I do apologize because it sounds like maybe some of the young ones have made it home and they're excited and they're like banging on the floor. So, in this day and age, we adjust, and we keep it moving. But with that, I will turn it over for the introduction of the speakers.
I got it. Thanks, Victor. Yeah, they're excited for Margaret and Brenda. So
Right.
that's awesome. I love it. Well, we've enjoyed so much the last couple months being partnered with you in this series, and it's been great. So thank you for having us. I'm not going to be too long-winded here with Brenda and Margaret. I'll let them kind of tell you about themselves. But both Margaret's been with Matrix for just under 2 years and many different roles within agility throughout her career. A lot in the product area and a lot within the healthcare space. Brenda has been with us a little over 4 years and 20 years. Both are from the Midwest, right? Yeah, Chicago and Indiana.
We've both lived out that way. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from the Midwest, but Brenda's lived in the Midwest too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brenda's from you graduated from DePaul, and Margaret from IU,
Indiana
right?
University. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm a Chicago native. I just
I grew up outside of Chicago too. So.
Oh.
There you go.
All right. We got the crew together.
But I had the great experience to have Brenda coach my team inside of Matrix, where about 2 years ago we kind of looked at ourselves in the mirror and said, hey, we're providing all of our clients, this great consulting offering of increasing their agility and velocity and all sorts of good things. And we kind of looked at ourselves and said, we should go through that. So Brenda had time and embedded herself within our team, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot through that of I guess my role was almost like kind of as the product owner, if you will, as the branch leader in Atlanta for us, and learned how to shut up and let the team kind of take over and be more self-managing, and those awkward moments of silence to just they'll fill. And Brenda was like, just JV, just let it go. It'll fill in. Don't worry, it'll fill in. And it was great. It was a wonderful experience. So I'm going to just turn it over to you guys. Business agility is a great topic. Over to you, Brenda.
Excellent. So Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Is that big enough for you all? Let me know if you need me to go into presenter view. I will tell you it is a little bit easier to go back and forth tonight with what we'll be doing when we're in this view. But if it's not big enough for you all, let me know. Can you see it okay?
Works for me.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to make sure I can see you all, see your faces on the side here. JV, we have this beginning slide. I didn't know if you wanted me to go through that or if you want to go through this. This is just a little bit about us in the same way we went through, you know, what Victor and Shanika are working on.
You're fine to step through it. I might sound
Excellent.
salesy, and no one wants to hear a sales.
Oh yeah, and I there's no way I can sound salesy. I don't have that. I don't have that gene. I don't have that gene. So tell you guys a little bit about Matrix. We're actually a staffing company. That is how Matrix started. And then, you know, we saw the need. We were approached a lot to work in the agility space and in the consulting space. And so we have a professional services and consulting arm. And, you know, Matrix is a pretty strong player in this place and has been over the years. You know, we're in the top 25 of US IT staffing firms. We always do very well on our net promoter scores. Our customers have rated us highly in terms of the, you know, the service that we provide in the hiring space and in the consulting space. And we have 13 offices across the US. With Margaret and I are based out of Atlanta. I don't know if we have any folks outside of Atlanta joining us tonight, the Atlanta area joining us tonight, but we are based in the Atlanta area. We have locations in Raleigh, and we have, I think we have San Francisco now, and we have some folks in Texas and Dallas,
Chicago, Jacksonville, Birmingham,
yep,
Charlotte, Raleigh. Yep.
So we're out there. So that is Matrix. And actually, Margaret and I did not meet by way of Chicago. We met working for a healthcare organization. So we kind of go into the Wayback Machine a little bit. So, and I brought Margaret, I hope you don't mind, Margaret, I brought you into the fold here at Matrix.
Yes, because we worked together 4 years ago, and then you left to go to Matrix, and then you brought me into Matrix.
And so here, yeah, so here we are. So this evening, we wanted to talk about business agility. And when we were approached about this topic, Margaret and I got together to discuss our approach and how we would go about this session. And we said, you know, agility has always been about the business. It's the reason for agility. And a lot of times we think about you know, agility being an IT thing. So it's interesting. We had to kind of back up and say, you know, how do we want to approach this? So we're going to look at, we actually want to, for the folks on the call, we actually want to ping you a little bit about your thoughts about agility. And then we want to define the agile mindset. And maybe for some of you, this will be review, but we really want to lay the groundwork for, you know, what's the agile mindset? How do people who are agile think? And then we want to talk about applying agility outside of IT. There's ways that we can think about agility more broadly. It doesn't just have to be an IT thing. And JV, I actually did include in here our experience together with your organization. And
suddenly I'm nervous.
Oh no, I'm pretty much echoing your beginning thoughts there. And then, you know, how do we translate this into action? How do you move from, because we'll be talking in some instances in the beginning part of this discussion, we'll be talking theoretically. And then when we talk about applying, we'll move a little bit more into more application, more how can this look in the real world? And then what can I do? What are some of the things the actions that I can take individually in my organization to move toward these mindsets, to move toward these behaviors and values to see the benefits? So having said that, I see we have about what, 15 people on the call. So here is what I'm going to do.
Do you want me to send out the link to Mural, or are you just going to display?
I actually have, I thought I was just going to put it into the chat.
Well, yeah. Okay.
That'll
I might
work.
send the link in the chat.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So if you guys want to go, I'm going to give you an opportunity to go to that link. And then I am actually going to, here's the thing about showing you the link. A lot of times what happens is you will try to click on this screen, but don't do that. Click on the link that was provided to you. So this is something called Mural. Some of you may be familiar with this already. I see some of you in there. Excellent. You get named a visiting spirit animal when you go in to Mural. And what we'd like you to do is, if you can see me sharing the screen, you can grab a sticky note. If you click this sticky note icon, you can grab a sticky note from this area and pull it over and type in it. And so what we'd like to do for this exercise is have you all state on your sticky notes, because for those of you who weren't here at the beginning of the session, I said I miss whiteboards and sticky notes. Type out, what does agility mean to you? When you think of agility, or even when you think of business agility, what does it mean to you? We'll take about 2 or 3 minutes to have you guys put your thoughts out there.
Can I say I quit? Every time I type something, I look and I'm like, oh, someone else already said it.
Come on.
My hands are so slow now.
I was going to say, how fast of a typer are you, Victor? Like, don't take mine. All right, we'll give it one more minute. Speed. Oh, I like that one. Oh. Excellent. Does anybody need more time? Seems like we've got some good things out there. All right. So let me make sure. I'm just going to make this just a tiny bit smaller to make sure I'm not missing anything. Move this around a little bit. Okay, great. So we've got adaptability, flexibility, open-mindedness, speed, transparency, different, change, responsiveness, self-healing. I really like this one. Can anybody speak to that one? Self-healing. Feel free to shout out your clarification there. Oh, we have somebody who's trying to do this on the phone.
I just sent him a message.
Okay.
If you want me to add anything, I can.
Yeah.
Just send me a note in chat.
Yeah. Oh, fixing. Yeah. Like, oh, yes. That's a great one. And that's a great connection. It's you're learning and adapting and getting better. So you're healing yourself through that. You're healing yourself and your organization and your team through being reflexive about how you want to improve and how you want to get better. You're being very analytical about that. Yeah, that's great. All right, you guys. Good thoughts on, and I think you'll see a lot of these themes are coming through in what we say about business agility. It's very similar to that. It's adapting to change. So as an organization, we can quickly adapt to change. In the market, maybe we need to be flexible to remain competitive in our marketplace, in our business. And agility is being able to respond in ways that are going to allow your organization to survive, and not only that, but to thrive, to be better than you are today. Part of that, like continuous improvement through learning. Great. And other thoughts or questions on business agility that you didn't see, that you thought might come up in our mural board, but didn't in this definition? JV knows I'm okay with silence.
I struggle with it, but you're good with it. So.
All right. Cool. So if I can have a shout out either through, I'd like this to be a little bit more of a discussion. If folks on the call could tell us, what is your experience with agility? Are some of you serving as Scrum Masters? Are some of you working on Agile teams or Scrum teams? I'd like to hear from you all about what your experiences are with agility.
Hi, this is Danielle. I would just say just the ability to be able to get the team to change. I'm a Scrum Master. Get the team to change to the next priority. Just getting out of that mindset of just staying on one task, and just having that flexibility, having an open mind, and not married to the work per se.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good thought. Good thought. Other folks, your experiences with agility.
I don't, go ahead, Victor.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say I think just the journey there is always interesting to see how it's hard for a lot of people. They're so stuck in how they've always done things, and they just can't change, or just they either don't want to, or they can't. They're just not built for it. It does. It's just interesting to see that, where you just see walls go up with some people, and then others they're just not afraid. They're okay with like letting go and just, okay, if we fail, then we'll figure it out the next time around. Where other people, they're just too afraid to fail, and they won't stop doing it the way that they've always done it. So, and the other is like, there's a lot of people that sort of like pretend to be agile, in my opinion, where they'll meet every day, but they're still doing things the same way. They just meet every day, and they either call their meeting a stand up or whatever, but they're still doing it. So
yeah. Vic, did you have a thought there, Victor?
Yeah, but John, if we were doing poetry, I would give you a few snaps right there, because you I think you hit the nail on the head with your comments. And when I think about Agile and that Agile mindset, not recently, but a few years back, we shifted from a traditional service support model into more of a product model.
Yeah.
And in that, we said we were utilizing Agile as that driver to give our team, more autonomy and the ability to make decisions and move fast or fail fast. You have these small, nimble teams. But with that, because it was, trying to pour old wine in a new bottle, we were still attempting to do things the same way. And I think we're growing at this point. And similar to the comment that Danielle made, it was one of those situations where you're used to what you're used to, right? And you're comfortable in that environment. So it's challenging to begin to observe the world in a different way, right? The successes you had in the past, you kind of carry that forward with you. And I think, as we look to fail fast now, we're becoming more accustomed to the fact that yes, we can make decisions. Yes, we can fail without, significant repercussions. Yes, we can go into a meeting with our small group of 5 to 7 and do some amazing things that don't require a large project team, right? So I think it's still, getting used to, this flow.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely having individuals that can help influence that on a team matters, right? So if everyone is going in that same direction, it makes it hard. But if you have an individual who's truly embracing the benefits of having an agile mindset, it definitely makes the process that much more easier.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to come up today, Victor, when we talk about, how do you translate this into action? Yeah, a lot of what you're saying, Victor and JB and Danielle, it resonates with me. And, as Margaret and I were preparing this, we thought, everything starts with it's the why and what's the problem we're trying to solve. Our goal isn't to get together just to have a stand up and give each other status. That's not what our goal is. What's the real goal? What's the real problem we're trying to solve? It may be different in different cases, but that's kind of what we're always looking at. So I thought we would just start here and say, what do you guys think is the answer to this? So in the early 1990s, how long do you think it took to get from a business requirement, having that business requirement presented to a team and having it developed and getting it into production? Which one of these do you think it is?
3 years.
There's 3 years in the chat too.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 3 years. And I'm not sure that for some organizations nowadays it's that different.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And in like the aerospace industry and in some other industries, it's 20 years is, the average amount of time. And so this is just to say we got problems. Right? We have problems, and some of this, like not being able to get a product out in an accelerated way, or even in an acceptable time frame, in a way that will allow us to be flexible and adaptable and meet needs, is related to so many problems that people have recognized in the past. And you guys can tell me if you see yourself or your organization in any of these. We can't see our work. We know that there's work being done out there, and we know we'll talk to somebody about, how's the initiative going with Making sure that we have good automation, that we're automating critical processes in our organization. Oh, I know what's happening. Well, can I see it? Where is it? How do I know where we are? We can't see our progress. Allow me to see the progress of that. For those of you who may have, I know some of us have worked nights, we've worked weekends, but we have too much work in progress, right? That's a problem. Some of us may have really heavyweight processes and they don't seem to add value. So why am I checking this box? Why am I filling out this form? Why am I documenting this? Why am I doing that? I don't really know why. What's the problem we're trying to solve? I mean, I know I've worked on teams and developed products for many years and had the moment where I went, why am I doing this? Like, what am I solving for somebody? And which kind of goes hand in hand with not having an understanding of your common goals. And so we're all going in our own direction. We're not aligned. We have too much bureaucracy. And I think somebody mentioned this earlier, like it's more of like this command and control. We're waiting to be told what to do. We're not empowered. And so if some of you know the background of agility, you know that there were groups of people out there saying, we have these problems. This is a picture of the actually now famous or infamous meeting of the creators of the Agile Manifesto. This was in Snowbird, Utah, where a bunch of folks got together who were having these problems. And they said, there has to be some way for us to work through these. There has to be some framework that we can create, or some guiding principles, some manifesto that will guide our work. So they got together and drafted that. And then it grew from there. There were actually frameworks before Snowbird, Utah. Frameworks like Crystal, XP, Kanban, Lean. This is like the Agile umbrella, where this mindset of solving these problems, there were different frameworks that grew out of that. And this is just a reminder to us all of what those principles are. We're developing working software continuously. We want to deal with changing requirements. We want to deliver frequently. We want to show what we've developed. We want business people and developers to work together. We want to build projects around people who are empowered. We want to talk face to face. We want to collaborate. Collaboration is very, very key to agility. We want to work in a sustainable way. If I'm continually working nights and weekends, then I'm going to get worn out and the quality of my work will suffer. We want to pay attention to the quality of what we're building. We want to make things simple. And we want to continually reflect, going back to that great comment about self-healing. We want to reflect on what we're doing so that we can get better and improve. We also, as part of this solving these problems, we've come up with, there's the House of Lean, the Toyota Way. We want to respect the people doing the work. We want to make sure that we're fostering collaboration, that we are aligned on a common vision. that we're continuously improving, and that we're actually seeing the work. That it's not something that's shrouded in mystery for us. We want to actually go out and see how people are working. And then another, under the Agile umbrella, we also have these mindsets of, limiting our work in progress, not getting too much spun up at once, visualizing our work. You can see a lot of commonalities here, managing the flow of work throughout the pipeline. If we are working in batches that are huge, and that's one of the things that's hard to get teams to change their mindset on, is so I need to break down my work into smaller pieces so I can develop it and drive out risk. I want to get feedback, right? I want to create something and get feedback on it. And I want to improve and involve. So these are just some of this is part of the history of agility, part of forming these mindsets that inform some of the ways that we can improve our business. Margaret, did I leave anything out there? No, there's a lot.
I know there's a lot. No, I think you captured everything. And all the guys from Utah that met to talk about better ways of working. I just think it's funny that they all got together on a ski trip and their right? downtime talks about like better ways to do software development. But
and not ski, but yeah.
I know. It's just funny. But they were really focused more on software development, but the fundamental ideas of collaboration and working together and making things visible and transparent are definitely things that extend outside of software development. It's things that you're going to see all over the place that are going to kind of just improve your life in general. So
yeah. It's like working at a sustainable pace, probably going to improve your life in general.
Yes.
Limiting the amount of work that you get spun up at one time. So the example I like to use here is I need to clean my bathroom. But so I start to clean my bathroom and then I get distracted and I go down, I put in a load of laundry. And then I start to clean the kitchen and then I'd start to do some yard work. When does my bathroom get clean? Right. So it's
never.
Yeah. I mean, these are kinds of things that you can apply internally to your own life. And those concepts are expandable, not just to IT, but to the rest of your organization. So let me just make sure I'm caught up on chat. Yeah. Transparency, very, very important. Excellent. So keeping that in mind, everyone, I'd like to go back to Mural. And in order to do that, I am going to provide you all with a different link. I'm going to go ahead and no, actually, let's just talk this one through. So keeping in mind these principles, and I can actually go back to the Agile principles, and if you'd like to look at other ones that are related to Lean, the Toyota Way, or to Kanban, let me know. I can always expose those slides, but like to take a moment and have you all either shout out or put in the chat, if you're more comfortable doing that, places in which you have seen these concepts used that are out in the world, not just in IT, but could be applied in other areas of life. I'll put these back up here. I'll take a minute or two. Any thoughts? Oh, great. anywhere where you can use Kaizen in your personal life? Do you see organizations that are not IT related using Kaizen, which is continuous improvement?
So it's challenging because we see IT in everything.
Yeah.
I look at a basketball game, I see IT.
Well, that's it. That's exactly it. So sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sports is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, financial industry IQ.
Mm-hmm. How does the financial industry use these principles?
Q, do you want to unmute?
Oh, get in the, yeah. Anyone have other? Yeah.
When I think about streaming video, I guess that's sort of technology, but even food delivery and things like that, that's especially taking a shift in how it approaches its business model due to COVID. I think it was Ben and Jerry's maybe and someone else that's starting their delivery services for ice cream and guaranteeing 30-minute delivery and things like that. So there are definitely many industries that we can identify now due to COVID that practicing these principles, that's very obvious.
Yeah. Think about how some of these principles can be applied in this world where it doesn't look like it used to, right? Where now we have to adapt.
Education.
Education, good one. Yeah, most definitely.
Even like the mortgage industry in the old days, like the time it took from, to close on a property, it's so much shorter now. And the whole process is so much more streamlined. Gotten a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So,
can y'all hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I have my headphones on now.
Okay.
So when I was talking about the financial industry, I was referring to like the many changes that were made over the years, like the financial planning process. They remove some of those processes and add some process to I guess to be modernized with the industry to like the nowadays, and also the different laws when it comes to the different laws and like the insurance industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And think about how there's just more, stock trades and applications that allow you more access to financial information and to participate in that market. It's definitely different.
You think about like buying a car and the lack of information that you had X many years ago, where now you go in and it's so much more, there's so much more visibility that you have, and that the shop where maybe you're buying, the dealership where you're buying the car, they know you have that. So they're more open in a way. That's better.
Yeah. Yeah. Valentina was saying in the chat that, transparency is such a great thing to apply that can be applied in many areas. So what we thought we would do is talk through some examples of how agility and these mindsets have been applied in areas that aren't necessarily IT related. There could be some IT aspects to these areas, but for the most part, you wouldn't normally look at a nonprofit food bank and go, "Oh, agility." So, Margaret, I didn't know if you wanted to talk through this one and how some of the concepts are used. Cool.
So I've done volunteer work at a few food bank type places. And one thing that always gets me is how precise each station is. They're very precise. They have scales for everybody to use to make sure that there's no food waste. They're very big on all the health requirements, health code requirements with wearing gloves and hair nets, like if your hair is like mine and it falls out all the time because you don't want to get hair in people's food. And things like moving things through the system, the flow of the food, because it can't be cold or hot too long, depending on what type of food it is, because it'll spoil. So there's a lot of things that go into running a nonprofit food bank and getting food to people that a lot of people probably don't think about. Even things like the cleaning up of the station, the cooking of the food, all of it all comes together and uses like the idea of flow and not wasting things and learning and getting better so that you continuously reduce waste and improve the flow of getting food out the door.
Yeah. Continuing with the food theme, we can look at, this is my personal experience with a mobile food service unit. So my brother has a mobile food service unit. And as we were working one day, he had a line that was just wrapped around the street.
Is this your fancy way of saying a food truck?
Food truck.
Okay. It's a fancy way of saying a food truck.
Well, so the thing is, it's not a truck. It's actually, it's like a souped up cart almost. It's like a trailer. And you hitch it onto your truck and you can drive around with it. So yeah, not quite a truck, but same concept. Yeah. And so he always had these long lines, and we would mess up the orders. So we were giving people the wrong orders. And so we said, okay, wait a minute. How can we apply some agile, lean principles to this mobile food service unit? So we thought, okay, the reason why we have the long lines is because we have a bottleneck. So for some of you on your teams, you may have the bottleneck of the one person who has knowledge. There's only one person who knows this technology. There's only one person who can flip this switch or flip this bit, right? So in these lean agile principles, we're always looking for what's the bottleneck. So we said, okay, let's apply that to our issue. What's the bottleneck here? It's the grill. You don't have a big enough grill to fill your orders. So we need to get rid of that bottleneck. So we introduced a food warmer so that we could cook just enough, reduce waste, cook just enough, put what we needed to in the food warmer to get rid of that bottleneck. So we would have enough to fill the orders and the line started to move more quickly. We also noticed that we kind of had to slow down the number of orders that we took. We had to balance getting this food warmer situation up and running along with the number of orders that we took at any one time. We were extending our work in progress. We were not working at a sustainable pace. We were spinning up too many orders and overtaxing our ability to fill them. So for teams for those of you who are practicing Scrum now, and you keep noticing that you'll take on, we'll take on 50 points this sprint, but we deliver 20. Oh, great. That means we can carry over 30 that we're almost done with. So in the next sprint, you deliver a ton of story points, but then in the next sprint, you tank, right? You don't have a predictable flow. And these are agile concepts. These are lean concepts. And we applied this to the mobile food service unit to drastically reduce our lines, drastically reduce the wait time for food by removing our bottleneck and understanding how much work how many orders we were taking in to the system. Thoughts there? Does that spark anything for anyone?
Like, you kind of touched on it without saying it in these words, but like, a lot of times when you start having to rethink how you're doing things, you really have to like slow down to speed up. Yeah. So you really have to slow down, take a step back, and start thinking about how you're doing things, and really like think through the changes that need to be made. And there will be times when you do that things will slow down, and you'll feel like less work is going through the system, and that you're taking less orders in the case of the mobile food service unit. but it's important to remember that the end goal isn't to necessarily get everything out the door all the time. It's to get the right things out the door at the right time. And I think that sometimes gets lost. I think you kind of touched on that when you were talking about the food truck.
Yeah, absolutely. We had to slow down in order to get accurate orders. We wanted to apply that principle. We wanted to apply the agile principles of excellence, right? Even the fact that we were looking at the bottleneck, we were trying to apply these principles, was our commitment to continuous improvement. So just another example of how you can apply these principles outside of IT. So here's another example. This is an example that came through in a class that we were teaching at a large insurer. We were teaching Scrum, and there was a group of, was Agile, but mostly focused on Scrum. And there was a group of people in the class who were representing there's an area of the organization that was a translation team. And their job is to translate documentation, insurance documentation, that is going to different countries. So insurance documentation that needs to be sent out to people in Japan or Mexico, or Portugal, or wherever the company's presence is. They had to send out insurance documents as well as marketing material in those different countries. And so they were responsible for translating that marketing material and those insurance documents, or whatever collateral needed to be translated into the appropriate language. And many of the people in that group, they signed up for the class on a whim because they thought, oh, Agile, this is interesting. I'll go and I'll see what that's all about. And so they got into the class, and they said, that doesn't really apply to us. And we said, okay, well, do you want to just hang out and bear with us and go through the day and see if there is something in here that sparks some thought for you? And so by the end of the class, the team decided to apply several of the principles that we talked about. One of them was making their work visible on a kanban board. They came to the conclusion that they really couldn't see what the work was that they had in progress. They were really just guessing. And there was a lot of coordination that was required among the team. They also discovered that they had a bottleneck. Their organization had invested a lot of money in their Japanese market. And there was one Japanese translator to handle the multitude of documentation and marketing material that needed to be translated for that market. And so by exposing that bottleneck on their board, by visualizing their work and seeing how work stopped in a certain column, they were able to talk to their leadership and get additional people hired who could do the work, so that that person could work at a sustainable pace and release something with quality. So this is just another example of how people applied these concepts to something that wasn't necessarily IT related. Any thoughts there? Spark anything for anybody? Cool. Margaret, I think you're giving a live demo.
I know. I am.
Of human resources. Do you want me to stop sharing?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I put live demo on here because that was kind of one of the lessons learned when I work with human resources, is that human resources tend to have a lot of stakeholders and a lot of different groups. So I worked at a bank and I work with them on their Agile transformation, and the IHT teams were going through their transformation and creating Scrum teams and things like that. But in order to do that, I spent a lot of time with human resources and the finance team on really helping them understand what the needs were going to be for these other teams. And in doing that, they kind of decided that they also wanted to take a lot of these concepts and put them into their organizations as well. So a few things with the human resources group that they realized as we got deeper into this was, one, they didn't really have a good set of priorities because they had so many different groups that needed things from them. So they were rewriting all the roles because they were getting some new job recs out there to start hiring some new people with additional skill sets that they were lacking. Working through all kinds of different things that they needed to really go do a full-scale transformation. And they were getting things from all these different other lines of businesses. And in order to really be able to do that, they really needed to start have a very visible backlog with the work that needed to get done, so they could pull people in to really start talking through the priorities and that everyone could see all this work that needed to happen. And then from a demo perspective, even though they didn't have demonstratable software necessarily, they did still do demos at the end of their sprints to be able to show everybody and be very transparent about where the work was and how they were progressing on the work to get the feedback from the stakeholders. So they were not IT, but they definitely embraced the idea of visibility and transparency and really understanding the highest value items and focusing on those. So that is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Making it visible.
Yep.
Sales and recruiting, JV. So one of the things that was really interesting about this experience of applying agility, we looked to the idea, the concept of collaboration and cross-functionality. So normally you have sales and they're over here, and you have your account executives, and they are responsible for developing relationships with clients and prospective clients, and really understanding the client needs and what their organization needs from a staffing perspective. And then you have recruiting, and they're over here, and they find people. They find people to fill positions and roles. And what we found was that it may be interesting, it would be a good experiment to bring those two groups together to create a cross-functional team, so that the salespeople and what's going on in the account world is always visible and shared to what's happening in recruiting, and what's happening in recruiting can be shared with the account executives so that they understand how to communicate with the client where things are. So we were applying the concepts of transparency, collaboration, cross functionality, and being able to, it really helped the recruiter know what person to go after, or know if they were targeting somebody with the right skill set, because they were closely aligned with the account executive who was closely aligned with the customer. It's almost like applying business and IT work together on a daily basis, but substitute that with sales and recruiting work together on a daily basis. So we were trying to apply this whole idea of cross functionality to help us get better candidates by having a better understanding of what the organization needed. So not IT related, but definitely, definitely somewhere where we applied the concepts there. JV, anything that I sparked there that you didn't comment on earlier?
Yeah, you definitely sparked some stuff with me on that one. The cross, I think what was so valuable for us as a team, that cross functionality aspect of it, was it fostered a level of empathy within the team that salespeople are always just like, my job's harder than your job. And the recruiters were always just like, what are you guys doing all the time? You're just like going to lunch and
you bring
golf
donuts
and whatever.
Right. You bring donuts to people.
Your job is you drop off donuts. Your job is so easy, And so the closer that both of those two teams got to one another, they were just like, oh, wow. That's, I see so much more. So the empathy came into play. We increased the visibility, and then the empathy came, and then they were working closer together, and then there was greater trust. Like over time, then the trust between the two groups really grew. So it was one of the better things we've ever done.
Oh, good. Yeah. So good to hear. I was glad to work with you all. I learned a lot. I think that was a great application of agility. Last one here that I know I have as an example, and I don't know if you all have more thoughts on this, but I most recently worked with a team. It was an IT team, in full transparency, and they actually were developing mobile applications where they needed to have their messaging within the application approved by marketing. This is an organization that is in an industry that is highly regulated. And the legal aspects of the language that they're releasing into the marketplace needed a lot of attention and review, and the team just really could not get the work out the door. They would get to a point where everything would stop, and they'd say, oh no, now we need to put this through marketing, and then there would be delay after delay. And so this particular team decided to invite marketing to their stand-up. They actually got marketing to create their own kanban board, so that the marketing team could visualize their own work and make that visible to other parts of the organization that depended on them, because it wasn't just this team who needed marketing review. It was many teams. So in this way, the team became a little bit more cross-functional, including marketing in their stand-ups, also including marketing in their sprint reviews, getting marketing to their refinement sessions as much as possible. And it's actually what allowed them to really accelerate their work. It also exposed discrepancies in priority. I know I can be a broken record when I say everything is going to come down to priority. And that was the case with this marketing group, that there were different initiatives at the organization, and they weren't all aligned. So this forced the team to really think about how are we aligned on a common what are our priorities? How are we aligned there? And what will we tackle next based on that? It forced a lot of hard conversations, but they were good conversations. Any other thoughts here on marketing?
Just in general, did we spark any other things for you when we talk through these examples?
Yeah. Are people now hungry because we were talking about mobile food service units?
Yeah.
I will say it did appear as if you may have been in some of my meetings during the week,
Okay.
Because that's an issue that we deal with constantly when you desire certain outcomes, so you're willing to push as much through the system that you think is necessary without ever thinking about what that's doing downstream. Right. So that's something that's real right now, and that I'll also probably be talking about tomorrow. Right. So, and I know some on the call have a similar sentiment.
Yeah. And definitely feel free to bring those up. I know we want, if you have any issues there that we want to talk through, Margaret and I have left plenty of time for Q&A. Maybe we can brainstorm about some of those issues.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and maybe Victor, some of these things will, help with these conversations, but the agile mindsets, agile organizations, they're bound by a common purpose. They're allowing for decision making where decision making should occur. So if there are people on a team who have knowledge, they're closest to the work, we want them to make the decisions. We want the information from them. And that's what servant leaders do. They recognize when they need to ask the team. They also recognize when there are centralized decisions that need to be made at higher levels. But that's what servant leadership is. And so agile organizations have that mindset. They promote mastery and autonomy. So they want people in their organizations to master their craft. They want them to work as autonomously as they can. Think about if you have to wait to be told what to do. And here we're connecting this with the agile principle of you want to build teams around motivated individuals, right? That's part of mastery and autonomy. If you're waiting to be told what to do, think about how slow you have to go. So you need to have this mindset of we want to promote mastery. We want to promote autonomy. They encourage collaboration. You heard us talk about collaboration is pretty much the key in many of these examples that we cited. You all have mentioned trust and transparency. That's a big part of the agile mindset. There's also the concept of being structured for adaptability. And that's where cross-functionality comes in. If you are in an organization with a lot of silos, you will find that you are not as agile as you could be. And so sometimes we have to think about those silos. Agile organizations reduce their silos as much as possible. They reduce dependencies as much as possible. I have a colleague, I'll steal from him right now. His quote is, the best way to manage a dependency is to not have it. So you're thinking there about how you structure yourself for agility. And then an agile mindset in an agile organization, we're promoting continuous learning, improvement, and keen problem definition and problem solving. So defining the problem you have to solve is a huge part of what you're doing. Why are we here? What is our why? Why are we doing this? Going back to purpose as well.
Along with the structured for adaptability and breaking down the silos, a lot of times when we go in our organizations too, I feel like a big key that there's some silos happening is if there's a lot of processing. If you've taken process, and I worked at a company one time and I told them it feels like you had something happen 10 years ago. And so you put a process in place and then something else happened and you put another process in place on top of that one. And it's just like processes all the way down. And a lot of these processes involve all these different organizations, like signing a document. It creates a lot of bottlenecks and things like that. And it really is decreasing the ability to have a lot of these other things you see around collaboration and building mastery and autonomy and servant leadership and all of those things. So whenever you feel like you're hitting a roadblock and not getting something done, look at the process that you're trying to follow in the first place and see if it really is built to like help you get the flow of your work and out the door as easily as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that can, and again, can be applied outside of IT. You know, maybe that translations group had a lot of sign-offs that they didn't need. They examined that, right? Are there some things that are slowing us down? Yeah.
Well, we see it a lot since we're talking about business. This is business agility. I see it a lot with the trying to get estimates and determine project funding at the very beginning and get all the people signed off on it before you really understand what needs to get done and have had like the team kind of be able to really understand the work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Happens a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do another mural. Let me go ahead and get our board set up here for you all. And I'm going to give you guys a shared link. Go back to our chat here and send this out to you all. So for this next mural exercise, what we want to do is look back to the slide here. What do you all think poses a barrier to your organization's agility? We put here the business as a whole, but you can think about your own area. If you're in IT, think about what some of the barriers could be. If you think back to what some of the mindsets are that we talked about, is there anything there where there's a mindset that's missing? Challenges that you have that may prevent you from being as agile as you could be. Let's take about 3 minutes to do that. And again, it is a mural. And so, I see you guys are pros. You guys are mural pros. There's nothing I can teach you guys. I had someone the other day who didn't like their spirit animal, so they went out and made me give them a different link. So hopefully
funny.
Hopefully you all like your spirit animal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, paperwork now. Mm-hmm. We're smiling. We see these a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We'll give it another minute. See if any of these spark ones for you. Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Seems like a lot of engagement with this question.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So we've got, yeah, and hopefully we'll leave enough time to look at some of these specifically. So indecisiveness, just not being able to make a decision about a direction, which goes to having a common purpose. Knowledge sharing, understanding the importance of your meetings and the commitment that it takes. Getting feedback from users, quicker feedback from users. I see here org structure. Maybe there's like some confusion around who makes decisions based on how we're organized. Who makes the decision? Big one here, probably the big one of big ones, having a safe space. Safety is such a key to this. Safety is a big aspect of being able to be transparent, to develop trust, and to improve. Safety is a big part of improvement. I'm going to lump that with being afraid to speak up, because there's not safety if you can't speak up. Approval processes, so heavy approval processes, paperwork, sounds like there might be some heavy bureaucracy there, and then unresponsive coworkers. Okay, so these are some of the barriers. Let's go back to taking action. And what are some of the things that, we can start to move into more of like an execution phase. We've been speaking pretty theoretically, even though we've talked about some practical applications, but if you are going to start to change the organization and make it to try to move toward agility, it's important to just start with why. Why are we doing this? What is our common mission? What are we all working toward? And then it's also important to think about, how will you measure your success? So we always say, there is a saying in that we're not necessarily here to become agile. We're not here to do agile. We're not here to be agile. We're actually here to improve something. So it could be, we want to get our products out to the marketplace 10% faster, or we want to raise our NPS score, our customer satisfaction score. How these are things that we can measure. It's a reason for adopting agility. It's what agility feeds into. And then finding the change agents. So we may be one lone person dealing with unresponsive coworkers, or we may be one person dealing with some of these times when we don't feel safe. Can we find other people like us? Can we find other people who have challenges with that as well? and kind of align with them. And then I'm sure that you all can think of people in your organization who they are change agents. They do a really good job of helping people understand the need for change. They're very good at articulating the why. Who are those people? Can you align with them? Can you, develop a relationship with them so that you can start to build this common cause? And knowing that change will come from the community, and that, it does take, it can start with one person. But this is when we're talking about creating a grassroots effort to find the people who are like-minded, who do want to affect change. Margaret, any thoughts there on change agents? Oops, sorry, cut you on
Okay,
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
My internet went down again, so I'm kind of like.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Now, one thing I was going to say with the last slide too. I'm sorry, I'm having issues all of a sudden. A lot of times when we will ask this question, like, why are you doing this? And a lot of times the answer we get is because so-and-so's doing it, like another company's doing it, and they're doing it great and their stuff is better now, so we're going to do it too, or because we want to get things out the door faster. But they don't take any of these mindset concepts and shifts and really implement them and learn the necessary things to implement them. So you can find your change agents on the next slide and find those people that can help with the grassroots effort and who are going to help promote and drive the messaging. But until there really is a consistent why, that isn't just because we want to be agile, you're going to continue to struggle with a transformation. And we've seen it a lot of times because it's not just about being agile. It's about, working better together and making things more visible and understanding that by doing that, you're probably going to get product out the door faster, or you're going to get the right thing out the door. Yeah. Because it's not just about getting 10 things out the door. It's about getting the right 10 things out the door. So those are all really important concepts when you're having these conversations, if you are one of these change agents. Yeah. Because this is something that we see a lot of places struggle with.
Yeah, but it moves an agile transformation or saying that you want your business to be agile somehow at some point tends to turn into a process change. Mm-hmm. And that's a part of it. But as Margaret said, those mindsets need to be embraced and applied. Like, I think, Victor, you had said this at the beginning, or somebody said, if we're just doing stand up, it's not enough just to do stand up. We have to understand why we're doing it, right? It's that stand up is a mini inspect and adapt. It is the embodiment of Agile principle number 12. At regular intervals, teams come together to inspect and adapt. We're doing that every day for 15 minutes. So unless you really understand that why, it's very important to do, to understand the why behind all of that. And then if you're going to get really hardcore into the execution details, if you decide this is something that we're going to do, that an organization is going to do, even if it is for something personally that you want to transform, even if it is for making your mobile food service unit better, even if it is for making your sales and recruiting organization better, your marketing organization better, it is always good to develop your strategy and then to make it executable. And one way that people can do that is use the same principles that you would use on your team. Create a backlog, create a transformation backlog. What are all the things that we want to transform? How can we break all of that work down? How can we visualize a roadmap for getting to where we want to be? What do we want to prioritize first, second, and third? What's the most important thing to do? And some of the things in here, as you know, could be issues of phasing. How do we want to phase this work? Let's create some time boxes for ourselves. Let's give ourselves some boundaries in the same way that a team would impose boundaries on themselves, maybe a 2-week sprint or a 3-week sprint, to do something, to produce something of value. And learn as you go. Apply the Agile principles to yourself and your transformation. There is, when organizations want to say that they want to transform their business to become more agile, they break it down into a project plan, and you look at it and it's phased. You can see those phases and then we'll be agile at the end. And what it really looks like is a spiral, right? That learning spiral. It's that cycle of doing a little bit on your transformation backlog, learning from it, and inspecting and adapting. So these are just some ways that you can execute by making it visible to yourself, using the Agile principles on your Agile transformation. Any thoughts there? All right. Becoming agile. If any of you have looked into change and actually how hard it is to change, then you may have seen some of Kotter's principles before. These are some important items to keep in mind. Oh, I'm sorry, Monica, I rushed ahead. I did not mean to blow right by that. Let me go back. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get used to this Zoom thing. I don't do it often. When you talk about prioritizing the work transformation of work,
yeah.
My company, and I'm with State Farm, during this pandemic, I think that we really found how Agile was really working for our organization. To within a 2 or 3 day period, had to transition 90,000 employees to working from home.
Oh yeah.
State Farm is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And with the pandemic happening and everyone's home now, our calls became even more increased. Okay. And you're looking at sometime maybe a 2-hour wait. And we can't have our customers on a 2-hour wait when their lives are crumbling. They're losing jobs. They're, just everything that happened. They can't do a 2-hour wait. So transition us to home first. Getting the VPN, we never knew that we would be having 90,000 employees working from home. So the VPN, all of that together, and Agile worked really well for us. I got into Agile by taking IT courses with State Farm. And so my colleagues around me don't know about Agile. They don't understand, but I saw it really at work. Some very, very simple things they employed made everything kind of sort of smooth out very quickly. Something so simple as, customer service now has to answer every call. And when you're transferring to, say, sales, for me, just 1 or 2 extra questions made they're taking before they transferred, made the wait time go down to maybe 15, 20 minutes. And when people's lives are falling apart, they need to know that I don't have to be stressed and waiting on the phone for you and for 2 hours, So I really saw that at work. I'm very, very proud of State Farm and doing that. And I think I began to really understand really how crucial Agile is to organizations large and small, but especially during the last few months. So I just...
Yeah, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a very good example.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you have looking at what was causing the problems, and then identifying that there's a couple questions that could help reduce the wait time a lot. Like that's exactly the type of thing that you want to work towards when you start shifting your mindset to being more agile.
Yeah. And defining the problem properly without, because a lot of times there's a tendency to become enamored with process and enamored with our own solution. Like we fall in love with our own implementation. But then when we back it up and start to really define the problem, there could be a simple solution that like you all implemented. Yeah, great example. Yeah. We're going to talk about ways that you all can apply it. That will be our last mural tonight. But does anybody have any other thoughts there before we continue? It's a good one. All right. Leading change. These are some things to keep in mind. If you yourself are a change agent, or you observe change agents in your organization, it's important to create a sense of urgency. This is the reason that, going back to the why, it's urgent to do this because building that guiding coalition, creating your common purpose, understanding who the people are who will go on this journey with you. Remove barriers, like identify your barriers first and then remove them. So that was part of what we were doing tonight is, let's get really explicit about what some of our barriers may be, so that we know what they are. We're not just guessing. And then, think about how to remove those barriers. Create some short-term wins. We're going to talk about starting small. And once you do get going, you have to sustain that pace, right? You have to sustain that pace of change, keep it going. It's easy. I think some of you all were commenting earlier tonight, it's easier to kind of fall back into the way that things were. But when you are involved in change, it's important to keep the acceleration going. And then institute the change and make sure that the change is rooted in your culture. And that's one of those things, those cultural changes come last because they're the hardest ones to affect, as I'm sure many of you have experienced. But you want to institute that change and make sure that it's rooted in your culture. This is the way I always think about it. I think from the aspect of what if I'm not in charge? What if it's just little me? Seeing that there are ways that we can do things differently. And it feels like such a big lift. So what can I do from an individual perspective? So I need to understand the culture, my culture and my organization. And I have to understand, that may affect how quickly we go. If my culture is very resistant to change, I have to take that into account. I have to decide what's in my span of control. What change can I affect? What's under my control? Is under my control, speaking up at a sprint review? Is it when I'm talking to a business partner? Can I present an idea? Is the time right to present an idea? How can I make the time right to present an idea? So it's figuring out what I can do. Another important one here is to use data. So to gather data. So the translation team, they knew that they were understaffed after the investment had been made in the Japanese market, but they didn't really have any way to show that they just knew that they were that this person was overwhelmed, and it was slow to get the translation out. So they were using their board as data. They showed how long work sat in a particular queue in the to-do. They said it takes us on average a month to do this translation. Wow, are our customers going to wait for that? That's probably not, we can't see ourselves having a service level agreement related to a month to get out this material. So they actually showed, they used data to show that there was a change that was needed. And then this is a really important one. And I know when we began the session, JV said, no, I don't want to talk about matrix because it will come off too, when I do it, it may come off too salesy. And I said, well, I don't have a salesy bone in my body. This is where, if you're challenged by that, this is actually something that is needed for change. You really have to help people understand what's in it for you. What's in the change for you? How are you positively affected by it? Well, and maybe there's some trade-offs too, and we want to be honest about that. But it's speaking from the perspective of the benefit of the change. And then asking yourself, what's the one possibly small thing that I can do, relating to my span of control? What can I do to get us started, to push us along? Related to how my culture is and what's in my span of control and what data I have. And maybe the one small thing I do is gather some data. That could be the next step. Any other thoughts there?
I think one important piece, especially if an individual on an agile team, a product team is questioning, what authority do they have? That leader really needs to ensure that they're creating opportunities where that team could build credibility. One situation that I'm dealing with currently, I ensure that my team is the one that communicates out our decisions, right? Because it helps me step out of the way. And in those situations where I'm unavailable, then my team, whatever word they put out, that's what everyone goes by. So many times it's up to the leader to step out of the way of the team and allow them to build the credibility that they need to truly become an independent product team that can make quick decisions and allow the organization to be nimble.
Yeah, absolutely. Other thoughts there?
I think this has been brought up a couple of times tonight, but the feeling of being in a safe place.
Yeah.
That that as if the leader can create that safe place, people are going to contribute and give you real input.
Yeah.
Where you won't, if they don't feel safe, you're not going to get it. So you got to get that input somehow, some way, whether it's in the group setting would be the best, I think, because then people will collaborate on the input together. Mm-hmm. But if that's not going to happen for whatever reason, then you can always go one-on-one with people and say, yeah, this is a safe place. I really want your feedback. I want your input.
Yeah. And then thinking about ourselves, am I, we have to think about this. Am I making this a safe space? What's my part? And, if I'm a team member, do I make my team members feel safe and supported? And my colleagues? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say growing on that topic, one of the things I reinforce, definitely amongst my team is if you make a decision and me as a leader, I'm accountable for this particular product. If something happens, whereas, there's some adverse impact, I'm not going into meetings and saying, you know what, ABC person made that decision. I don't know what they were thinking. No, I'm going to be accountable just the same as if I was the one to make the decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes your team needs to hear that from you, just so it can reinforce the fact that they can be safe and they can take risks, right? When you don't do it and they feel like you're going to throw them under the bus,
Yeah.
and then they become really hesitant to step out and help the organization move forward. So
Yeah.
definitely like that point of view, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's breaking down that finger pointing mentality is so important.
Yeah.
And building up that you're a team and you're kind of successful as a team, or if things don't go right, it's as a team and it's not one individual person's fault, if you will.
Yeah.
Because that definitely happens in certain cultures where people
Mhm.
tend to point fingers, and then the trust erodes very quickly
Oh,
once
yeah.
that starts happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Okay, let's do our last mural of the evening. Okay, let's go back here for a sec. Let's look at, sorry, I got to move you guys out of the way. All right. Go ahead and share this link. This is, can you think of any actions that you want to take? Depending on where you sit in your organization, some of us may be leaders. Some of us may be on teams as individual contributors. Maybe you sit out in IT, outside of IT, wherever you are. Based on what we've talked about tonight, can you think of any actions that you want to take to assist in making your organization more agile? It could be maybe you're thinking about an area within IT or outside of IT. Any thoughts that you have there about your part in agility? Go ahead and grab that. Oh, good one. Yeah. Awesome. This down a little bit. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome, Mike. All right, let me see.
Margaret is the mural pro.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Ooh, Oh, I like these. These are good. All right. Let's look at some of these. Creating a safer environment, reinforcing autonomy, greater collaboration with the business, taking into account that cross-functionality, listening to them, developing that empathy with them. It also gets the information to you way faster than when you don't collaborate. Reiterating the importance of agile practices as well as the mindsets. Yeah. Encouraging the team, making the place safer. I'm really interested in this one. Find the right person to present the idea. Can whoever entered that speak to that? That's a really great one. Was that you, Cliff? I see you're visiting.
Hovering, yeah.
You're a visiting rhino.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, I am on a team where certain people will only listen to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to get that right presenter to make the case for people to buy in.
Mm-hmm. I call that seeding the room. Yeah. Definitely. That's a really interesting one. Kind of goes back to that helping people understand what's in it for them. And there may be something about that person. And also examining, is it their authority? Is it the way they express themselves? What is it about that person that gets that message through? And how can we adapt that or adopt that?
And I believe in change management. I'm happy you brought that up, Cliff. I think in change management, that's one of the things we truly need to address, right? Because it really places a barrier between us being able to be innovative and move quickly. Because whenever you have to leverage someone else to deliver a message that a different individual could have delivered, it really displays a lack of trust, I would say. And in that situation, it's almost like, if I'm trying to sell a product and I get it, if I'm selling the product, I'm going to send John out there. I'm not going to send myself. I'll send John to sell the product. But in a business sense, when you're accountable for technical decisions and collaboration amongst the group, you have to be able to hear a message from different people with different voices that utilize different terminology. Because if you can't do that, to me, it speaks more to that individual receiving the message and not necessarily to the ones that are delivering it and it's falling on deaf ears, I would say. But that's something that we have to observe organizationally and make sure, when we see it, we address it because that definitely, that's a barrier to innovation, I would say.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we did not leave a lot of time for question and answer.
But we don't much time.
But I am happy to stay on. If you all want to revisit aspects of this, if we want to go back to some of the barriers and talk through some of those, happy to stay on and entertain any questions that you all have.
So I will do a couple of things really quick, only in the interest of time, and I know some people may need to drop off for our official live stream. I will go ahead and do a quick closing, but then I will leave it going just so we can continue to have dialogue and for those that can stay on and maybe have some very specific questions to their individual situations. They don't necessarily have to worry about that being recorded.
We won't roll tape.
Yes.
With the whole safety and trust issues.
Right. So with that, I do appreciate everybody joining our November monthly meeting for BDPA Atlanta. Definitely believe the closeout to our Agile series with Matrix resources was well worth it. Both Margaret and Brenda brought us a significant amount of information that we can take and use today within our organizations, and as we can see, somewhat within our personal lives as well. So we do want to thank Margaret and Brenda for your time and your expertise. Really appreciate it. And with that, I will turn it over to Shanika.
Oh, I like a certificate.
I know, I love it.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I think all the collaboration on the mirror boards was really good too. Just seeing everyone kind of drop their notes in. So I'm interested to see if the conversation kind of continues.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you again.
Absolutely.
I guess one other thing, I guess we're just trying to close down really quick. Wanted to also raffle off an Amazon gift card to one of the individuals that joined today. So the luckily randomly picked person is Olga Sheriff-Yakova. So Olga, if you can drop your contact details within the chat, we'll send you details about the Amazon gift cards soon. So thank you, and I'll hand it back over to Brenda and Margaret for any other Q&A that they wanted to do.